Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If you're up in the middle of the night, cheers to you. I brought out the Good Morning Sunshine cup today because we have a lot of sunshine here in Austin, Texas. And if you haven't already, let me know where you're coming in from. Maybe you have some sunshine too. If not, sending it out your way. I'm so excited because today is building off of last week, which if you missed it, you can go back and see, but it was all about Veterans Day and celebrating our wonderful country and everybody who helps it be so wonderful. And so sort of carrying that through, we have with us today someone who I'm totally obsessed with and very excited that she was able to join us. Her name is Michelle. Again, I hope that you looked her up before you came, but if not, as always, I got your back and I will drop the link in here. You can give her a little clicky click and see what she's all about before she joins us. But I'll give you kind of the rundown. She started an amazing company called Squared Away, and it is a team of kick butt virtual assistants that are all military spouses. So cool. We're going to hear more about it. I'm really excited. But again, if you haven't already, give her a little click. I can personally attest to how awesome she is because I have been using her company now for probably 6 months. You've heard me go on and on about Shelby, my wizard behind the scenes, and I would not be able to do all the things I do without her. So very much I can attest that this is some good stuff. So without further ado, a big hello to, Chris and Keith and Jen and Jeff and Christian, everybody who's joining us. I hope you guys can all help me welcome Michelle.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I should say, where are you? Where are you pandemicking? What's a verb now?
I am pandemicking in sunny San Diego, California. So I have the same sun that you do in Austin, luckily, right now.
Oh, I always called San Diego weather. That's how I describe really nice weather. I'm like, oh, it's that San Diego weather, that postcard weather that you see in the movies.
Absolutely. Sunny and 75, 80, pretty much perfect. So I have zero complaints weather-wise.
Well, we will live vicariously through you today, but thank you for joining us. I'm so excited.
I'm super excited to be here. And Shelby is probably one of my favorite people. So I'm biased. She's my team.
Yeah, I'm biased too, for sure. So I'm so curious because, by the way, I speak your praises to everybody when they're like, how do you do all these things? I'm like, Shelby, my virtual assistant, you need a virtual assistant. Everybody needs a virtual assistant. I personally had never had one before. So this is my first time. But for anybody who doesn't know, I mean, I'm just curious from your standpoint, like, how do you describe your business and like what you guys do?
So the best way to describe Squared Away is we are a team of military spouses. We have people from Japan to Poland right now, which is pretty incredible. And we support our clients in everything from venture capital fundraising, behind the scenes with clients like Kim and independent consultants. So basically, just taking things off of everybody's plate so that they can focus on the priorities of their business.
And I feel like delegation, and by the way, I've talked about it, there's a lot of words for it. Some people call it delegating, some people call it outsourcing. I would say in my personal relationship to my partner, stop micromanaging me. A lot of micromanagers up in here. But if someone was like, okay, I know I might be a victim, or I know someone who's a bad micromanager, how does one start to delegate? How does one start to say, okay, I'm going to let go of this little thing?
So I too am a recovering type A, do everything myself. But my tip is always to pick the low-hanging fruit. So 3 low-hanging fruits that are not going to be detrimental if they're messed up, just so that you can build that trust with your team member. And then as that trust progresses, give them more and more important tasks until the point, like we get to the point you're like, oh my gosh, Shelby went on vacation. What is my life right now? How am I supposed to live without her? So it's building that trust, building that relationship, starting small to build up.
And I'm curious because, it's one thing to delegate in your personal life. So I don't have kids, but I've heard people that have kids say, I gave my kid the chores of taking out the trash, or, some small things around the house. It's one thing to delegate in the home, but how do you delegate at work or in business where maybe you don't have, an assistant, or you don't have somebody underneath you?
Mm-hmm. So starting with something like research is a very broad thing. You can take a massive task and break it down into small micro tasks to delegate to your assistant. That way they're not necessarily responsible for the whole picture, and they can just help you bring the pieces together.
Got it. And I feel like one of the things that I always hear from people is they think that they don't need an assistant. They're like, I've got it under control. And I have to say, after 6 months, I'm sort of converted, because you don't realize how much time you're spending on certain things. So what do you say to people who are like, that's nice, Michelle, but like, that's not for me. Like, I don't need that. That's not a concern.
I hear that all the time, funny enough. But my challenge to those people is track your time for an entire week. And how long are you checking emails? How long are you scheduling calls? How long are you looking at research for your family, for your business? Add up all that time and say, okay, well, what could I do with this 8 hours that I just spent on things that I could have given away? Like, how much is your time worth to you at that point? And how much more productive could you be if you gave that stuff to somebody else?
And I'm curious because obviously, you as an executive also, I'm sure, have to delegate a lot. And that's a learning in yourself to learn how to delegate. How do you think about delegating? Is it something that when you start off the week on Monday, you kind of make a list of here's what I have to do for the week? Is it a monthly thing? Is it a daily thing? What is it like for you?
Oh my goodness. I wish I could say that I had an amazing template, but typically what I do is I make a to-do list with literally everything that I have to do that week, from business meetings to looking for winter clothes for my boys who are 4 and 1, who are always changing in sizes. So all of that stuff goes onto my list. And then from there, I pull the low-hanging fruit, or the things that don't need my direct input, and then I delegate it to my assistant.
I mean, and so does your assistant handle both personal and work? It's kind of everything. It's a mixed bag.
Mixed bag. I am one and the same with Squared Away for the most part. So my assistant knows me, she knows Squared Away, and she knows what my priorities are, which is always my family. So she kind of dives in there first.
I love that. And I'm curious to, what Nick and Chris and some other people on here think. But I know, for me, when I think about delegating personal or professional life stuff, to me, it's like both. Because here's the thing that I found with this whole work from home. Yay, we're all working from home. We can do more while we work from home. I now find that I have more tasks. Like, the house is more messy. I have to make more food, more groceries, snacks. Why are there endless snacks? They're snacking. I have to buy the snacks.
Seriously.
I feel like I have more to do personally than I did when I was going to the office. And I don't know if you're finding that or experiencing that, or if other people are, or if I'm like alone in the snack department.
I think I've always been remote, so I've always kind of had the struggle, but snacks in my house disappear like within the hour, because I live with nothing but boys who always want to eat. But yeah, I feel like being at home, I notice more than my husband does, who goes to work. So the struggle is real there for me.
It's totally real. And I love, John, I love this point. how do you work with the VA when it comes to deadlines and when it comes to things that are time sensitive that, again, you might have the first reaction of like, oh, I'll just do it myself. Like it has to get done fast, so I'll just do it myself.
So the way it works at Squared Away is our assistants respond within the hour. So you kind of always know that you're going to hear from your assistant within the hour. If it's something that's going to be, within 30 minutes or so, I would probably say, give them a call. It's urgent. The most direct line is going to be the fastest to your team member. And it's setting them up for success like at the beginning of the week. So getting on a call, I call them brain dump calls because I regularly will literally just start talking about everything from my husband to my groceries to random things. So it's a brain dump of everything that you need. Our team members will literally take that brain dump call and say, okay, these are the priorities that you have. This is what we need to hit first, and then go down the list to make sure that they are all being hit that week. And, if you have those brain dump calls, then your assistant knows, hey, I know you haven't started working on this yet, but I have some questions and we need to dig in here. So it's kind of their job to be your poke in the tush to get you moving.
100%. I feel like, and if someone was saying, okay, maybe I'm not ready or I can't afford a virtual assistant at this time, what would you say is a good hack to someone who might be thinking these things?
A few different ones. One, make sure that, you have a good idea of what you're looking for with your assistant and what that ideal relationship looks like so that when you do engage with them, that you are getting essentially the best bang for your buck and you're not wasting time with them. The second thing would be, you can always start small and build up. Like Squared Away is 15 hours a month is our minimum plan. Imagine what you can do with 15 hours a month. Tracking your time here, like if you feel like it's not an expense you or your company can take on right now, tracking your time and then saying, okay, well, I'm literally spending 6 hours a week doing this. 1 month of 15 hours is going to be super beneficial for me and my company.
And I will say, I'm going to sound like a salesperson right now, but I will say, because I say this because if I was someone joining us today, I would have been the one saying, I don't need that. So I'm like talking to my past self, like ghost of past Kim. And I will say it's a little chicken or the egg. So what I found is I too started with 15 hours. By the way, I think now I'm up to like 50 a month. It's a disaster. But maybe need more than that. Debatable. So I started with 15 hours a month and it was a little chicken and the egg because when I freed up my time from the smaller tasks, the like busy tasks, I found, now is it causation or correlation? Who knows, that I started to get more big projects in, which made more money, which paid for the time with the virtual assistant. So like, I don't know, I find myself in a chicken or the egg circle that when I free up more of my time to work on the big goals that make me more money, that move the ball forward, it's worth, I don't know if you also see that, but that was my experience.
Yes, I see that all the time. A lot of our clients are super, super excited about working with Squared Away, just as you are, and they have the same experience, that the tasks that are taking away from their priorities for building their business is kind of like your own roadblock that you're putting in front of you. And you're saying, no, I can actually check my email better than my assistant or having an assistant. So I'm kind of missing out on this opportunity. If you remove that roadblock, you're going to have so many different opportunities to utilize your skill sets for so that you can focus on growing your brand and your business.
And I will say, because Jeff just brought up a really great point about outsourcing social media, I will say, Jeff, I'm curious about what Michelle thinks, but for me personally, I have outsourced a lot of the, Canva design work or things that, again, they weren't hard. It wasn't something that was like, oh my God, this is brain surgery. But yeah, it was like 25 minutes of time that when you add that up, if you want to do multiple posts on multiple platforms a week, before you know it, 3 hours was out the door. That could have been spent 3 hours on making money.
Exactly. And we see lots of different levels of outsourcing social media. So we do see the Canva posts, but then we also see assistants who are drafting, creating, and totally managing social media for their
Oh,
clients,
wow.
which is pretty cool. And we have some amazingly creative minds out there, but it's really neat to see. And it's totally based on that relationship. So if you're getting started with an assistant and you're interested in outsourcing social media, setting parameters for what makes you feel comfortable with those at the beginning, like, hey, I would love for you to, look at our brand a little bit more, find our voice, and help us draft some posts, and then we can chat about it, or I can look over some drafts and approve them for posting. So starting small like that to gain that, oh, okay, well, my assistant knows our brand, absolutely, she's going to start handling our social media posts and I don't have to worry about it anymore. So I definitely think it's a comfort thing.
It's almost like it becomes a secondary team member to me, or yeah, like an
Yeah,
extension of you a little bit.
it really is. And Kim, I'm just going to pick on you and Shelby, but you you guys started very small, and Shelby learned you how you operate. You learned her strengths, maybe some of her weaknesses, and you were able to start feeling more comfortable with delegating things and creating processes with her. And that it's like building a relationship. It's totally not PC for me to say this, but it's like dating. It really is like
Totally.
dating. It's like growing in a relationship, getting to know each other's strengths, weaknesses, nuances, how you can be a pain in the butt to your assistant, how your assistant can be a pain in the butt to you. Like, it's totally a learning experience from the very beginning, but it is like dating.
No, it's 100% like dating. I will definitely agree to that. No doubt about it. And I'm curious, and it's also, and it's virtual. So that's another thing I don't think we mentioned, but like everybody's virtual, as you said, everybody's all over the world. And I'm curious for you, not only as the founder of the company, so you're running the show, but just also as a boss. I feel like what we collectively, everybody here, has gone through in the last 8 months of this pandemic was like a severe shift to virtual. Like everything is virtual, your employees are virtual, your boss is virtual, or everything's virtual. Whereas you've been doing this, for 3+ years now. So I'm curious for you as sort of the expert, you've been running a company virtually. What do you say to all the newbies like myself or Joe or, anybody who all of a sudden finds himself at home like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen a coworker in 6 months. I haven't seen my boss in a year.
Yeah, so we were very fortunate in that at the beginning of COVID, we all knew how to work from home. We all knew how to network together. And I will say that one of the things that we did was kind of teach our clients how to work remotely, how to be effective when your kids are at home, swinging from ceiling fans kind of thing, and how to basically time block your day so that work wasn't getting pushed to 9 o'clock at night when you had no desire whatsoever to work. So we did a lot of teaching our clients. Another thing is that we do super fun Zoom calls. We've done meet your pet, like meet our team members' pets. Halloween costume contest was super fun. And then we do bi-weekly team calls where we're just seeing each other's faces, and it's nice to be able to do that. And we also have random Slack channels where we're constantly, just sending each other memes and picking on each other. So it's very much like a family. So it's something where we're constantly engaged with each other. And I regularly see team members interacting outside of our working hours. So it's really nice to be able to have that sense of community.
And I will say, I totally agree with that. And shout out to Abby, my partner in life, I say, instead of pride. But like, yeah, you have to be super intentional if we're going to talk every single week or every single day at this time, and getting really intentional about that. But what are like two big mistakes that you see people making as they're either working from home or trying to manage other people from home?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I would say the biggest mistake is not making time for yourself. Number one, self-care is huge. And I will be the first person to toss the white flag and say I was not the best at it whatsoever. And just knowing that your working hours where you're going to be most productive are not necessarily going to be the same working hours as your team members. So giving yourself some grace there, giving your team members some grace is huge. You're all kind of embracing the suck together. It's one of my favorite military word phrases. But you all get it. You all have the same struggles. Most of us have kids. Our spouses are literally on a different schedule every 12 hours, it feels like. So just being able to say, okay, give yourself some grace, take a walk, go play with your kids for 30 minutes, come back, and let's tackle this together. So those are the biggest things that I've seen, especially with my team.
And then I'm curious for you as like a leader on both sides of the coin, there are a lot of people who are trying to get jobs right now virtually, and you have hired all of your squared away employees virtually.
Yes.
So I kind of feel like you're an expert at finding people virtually and then obviously hiring them. So what would you say to someone who's looking for a job virtually right now? Like, what have you seen that really impressed you where, you know, you signed off that Zoom call and you're like, this woman's got it together?
I would say just, oh my gosh, I love transparency. People who are completely transparent about, you know what, my kids are insane right now. And I just want something where I feel like I'm not just a wife and a mom 24/7. I want to be able to grow. I want to be able to say, this is mine while I'm supporting my spouse in their career. That is my favorite phrase because it is so true. It's very much me. It like I want an identity outside of being a wife and mom and being able to have something I'm proud of. And I hear that from our best applicants, Shelby included. Like that was one of the things that she said on her interview. And that just resonates so much with me. And just being able to say, you know what, let's do this. Let's literally kick butt together. It's my favorite thing. And, you know, just being able to share that transparency with whatever job you want and make sure it's a culture fit. If you are just applying to companies just to have a job, like make sure their culture is something that really resonates with you because that's going to be huge.
100%. I agree with Jeff that hiring people over video or phone is a very unique skill set as opposed to, you know, in person. So for you, when you're interviewing somebody, are there certain things you're trying to keep in mind? Are there certain questions that you're asking everybody? Do you give them homework like before or after to do? How are you doing that?
So we have a process. It's a few steps long, but when they finally make it to a call with me, the biggest thing that I talk about with them is our culture. I call it our square. No pun intended, but it's the 4 pillars of what makes our assistants successful at Squared Away. So I chat with them about that, tell them everything that it entails. Those are over communication, extreme attention to detail, the ability to think outside the box, and the ability to be a team player. Those are our four pillars. And then I kind of break it down for them and let them ask questions if they have any concerns, that kind of thing. So that way they can determine it's a good fit on their side, and we can also kind of get a feel for who they are as well.
And what has someone said or done that's really impressed you? Like where they were just, I don't know, maybe they like sent you something in the mail or like they sent you a follow-up that was a video of them like being really excited about the company. Like, has anyone ever done anything that really stood out to you that made you really excited to hire them?
We've had quite a few people follow up with some amazingly nice emails, but I'm actually going to pick on Courtney, who is my assistant. She is actually the sister of one of our former team members, and she's not a military spouse. But on the call that I had with her, I felt like I could have had coffee with her all day. Like it was just a gut feeling like she needs to be here. This is somebody who, you know, is super driven. She is super personable. and it feels like I just met my friend. And that's the type of community we wanted to build. And she was talking about how crazy her kids were too. And I was like, you are amongst friends, girl. So come on over to Squared Away. So a lot of it is my gut feeling. I follow my gut with everything.
And do you find that, I mean, I also think that that probably, in my opinion, has to do with her doing probably really good research on you. You know, knowing that you have kids, knowing, I always tell people, if you're going into an interview, you should know more about the person interviewing you and more about that company than they do.
Yes.
Like, you should be schooling them. And because nothing is worse than getting to an interview or people that I've interviewed in the past, and they ask me a question that can clearly be found on our website. That to me is an immediate turnoff. Like, you didn't even look at the website, and you want to work here or with me?
I think
ridiculous.
I think one of the weirdest things that I ever saw was somebody called me Melissa, and I was like, you should probably know my name before you get on a call with me.
Yeah, that's a problem. And I'm curious, like, how do you, you know, obviously word of mouth, that's how most people find jobs these days. They have somebody that works there, et cetera. But have you ever utilized, whether it's different platforms or technology, for you to go out there and find talent instead of talent finding you, like posting, hey, this is a job description or anything like that?
So when we were a lot smaller, we used Facebook pages for military spouses,
Okay.
which was super helpful. But now, because we do have such a wealth of assistants that are spread all over the world, it's all word of mouth. It's all how can you work from home during a pandemic as a military spouse? It's like two smacks. Like, how can you do this? And they're like, oh yeah, Squared Away. And then we get probably 5 to 10 applicants every couple of days. So we've been very lucky that we don't have to do a lot of us reaching out. It's more, organic, them coming to us. So we've been very fortunate in that regard.
And how long have you been working with your assistant that you just mentioned?
We have been working together for about a month now.
A month.
But
Okay.
she's been with us. She's been with us for a few months.
Got it. I love this question that Jeff asked earlier, but I'm curious, as you delegate and work with someone, do you find that you, Michelle, become a better leader because you are sort of practicing more of those leadership skills with somebody else?
Yes, I definitely do. One of my favorite leadership books is called Turn the Ship Around by David Marquet. And it's all about empowering your team to also become leaders, which makes you a better leader. Our philosophy at Squared Away is we are in the business of creating leaders, not followers. And my team also has strict rules never to come to me and ask me for permission. It's always, hey, Michelle, this is something I intend to do. I would love your feedback. And our managers, our team lead managers, our directors, everybody has that exact same mentality. So me kind of stepping back out of my comfort zone of being a type A kind of empowers Courtney and our directors, Kelsey, Jordan, Senny, and Sarah, all to say, oh, I'm going to own my area and move forward here. So I definitely think putting your money where your mouth is and saying, this is how I want you guys to be, and, being able to embody that is huge.
Is that a quote that you got from the book, or is that something that you just sort of was like, I don't want people asking me for permission?
I don't think it was from the book, but okay. it was like he worded it differently in the book, okay. But it's very much a don't ask me for permission kind of thing. Like, come to me with your intent to do something.
I love the idea of not asking for permission. I've never thought of it in the concept of managing people. I wonder what that would look like in a corporate landscape, because you worked at corporate for a while.
I did, yes.
And did you find that it probably wasn't that mindset, I would imagine?
No, not at all. It was very much you get permission before you do X, Y, and Z. It's not a come to me with an idea and we'll work on it together. I think it's not the cookie cutter image of what a management style should be by any means. That's why I thought it was super unique. the way that
No,
David does it in his book.
I love that. And it's your company. So you can run the show however you want to run it, which kind of is the most amazing thing, I think.
It's really awesome. Squared Away is kind of built on everything that I saw going wrong working outside, as an independent contractor, working with the former VA company that I worked with a few years ago. It was like everything that I swore I never wanted to do again was a basic template for creating Squared Away.
I feel like, have you always been the type of person who maybe as a kid you were like, I see a need and I fill it? Or was this just something that you got so annoyed that you're like, that's it, I'm starting a company?
So it was kind of like a little bit of insanity, probably. But I worked independently as an independent contractor virtual assistant from 2015 until 2017. I had previously worked for a virtual assistant company. And as I was building my business, my husband got orders to Hawaii from North Carolina. So I was like, and I can't talk about this right now. So there's no way I can go from an East Coast company to a Hawaii based company. I racked my brain every single day, like, how the heck am I going to do this? And then I kind of made a resolution with myself. I had a 10-month-old at the time. We got to Hawaii. I told my clients that were working with me that I was taking a week off to move. Didn't tell them where. And I started working East Coast time from Hawaii after a week. So I was still doing 9 to 5 Eastern working with them.
I feel like that is a lesson and something that I'm always telling people, like, you get scrappy. Like, you get scrappy and you figure it out. You know, Marie Forleo has that book, Everything is Figure Outable. You know, you kind of figure it out. And I think one important thing to always figure out, and it sounds like you figured it out very early on. And, you know, I love Jen's question here is, you know, was your like motto or the way you work or the way you envision the company, was that something that you had before Squared Away? Or was it something that you started the company and you're like, okay, mission, vision, values, like, here we go, I have to do this for the website type of thing?
So the pillars that are our pillars now are things that I did, you know, as an individual, as we grew our team, and it was something that just innately happened. And then we literally sat down one day and were like, oh, I tell people about these on all of our calls. We should probably like make these like our official pillars. But that was something that it just happened. It was supernatural. I saw it and said, okay, this is why everybody's successful. This is why our clients love us. This is why we have, you know, these immaculate assistants who are just kicking butt in everything they do, because they all have these qualities. And they all love the culture of Squared Away and the community feel. So it was supernatural just to say boom, 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 boom.
I feel like it's interesting because part of me feels like, what happens if it doesn't come naturally? Like, should people sit down, even if it's just them and they're working at, I don't know, Bank of America or like a corporate job, like, should they sit down and say, you know, here are the pillars of the way I want to work or the way I want to show up in the work?
Yes. I was actually just talking to somebody about this. Start with the end goal in mind to build your team. Like, what do you want your end goal to be? And then build your team from that. Don't build your team and then force them into the box. It's not going to work. Not everybody's cut from the same cloth. So create your cloth first and then cut your people from that.
Ooh, I like that. I like that because I do think it's important to really try to stick to your values, your guns, or the way you work best, which I know is really hard. And again, I know when it's part of the delegation process and outsourcing and finding people that you're like, okay, I trust you, like, run with this, take this on. And it really is like dating, it feels like.
It is. And we've had people who were incredibly brilliant who just didn't have the culture side. And then we had people who had the culture side but didn't have the skill set to be a part of our team. So I'll say we hire about less than 10% of the people that apply.
Wow.
So we're very picky when it comes to the culture.
And how would someone know? I guess, like, I'm thinking of myself, and if I wanted to work at, I don't know, Squared Away or Revlon or any of these companies, how do you get a sense of culture from an organization? Because it's hard to tell that by just visiting a website.
It's super hard to tell that. And I would say, look at their social media. Talk to somebody who currently works there. Like, what is it like to work there? And just let your culture speak for itself from day one. Like, you don't want, I actually heard this on a podcast recently. You don't want you as CEO or whomever to know what your mission is or what your values are, but the rest of your team not. So if you can go to a company and say, hey, Michelle, what is your company values? What is your company culture like? From the very bottom to the top, they should be able to say that, like what it's like and what those values are.
I'm curious, what podcast were you listening to?
Oh my gosh, I'll have to get back to you because it was so good.
Yes, you'll have to drop it in afterwards when you exit off here and look it up, because I'm curious. Are there any podcasts that you particularly love, or newsletters that you learn from, or blogs that you read? I know one resource that I really love on the Squared Away website. If anybody wants to check it out, you guys have a resource column with things that you learn, things that you can use and learn about. Where do you get those sort of tips and tricks from?
Oh my gosh, everywhere. I don't think I have one dedicated source. I'm constantly checking out like what my LinkedIn members are reading and listening to. Twitter. I also am a huge advocate for the Female Founder Collective, and all of their businesses and their podcasts and everything. So I'm kind of always just like scrolling and kind of creeping on what everybody else is doing to kind of see, where everybody lies. So I'm kind of a mixing pot. I'm not a great resource for specific.
I love it, because I always tell people, when people say what's the one quality in a good leader, I always say curiosity. Like, if you can constantly be learning, then it doesn't matter. Because if we all get taken over by robots in 5 years, because Elon Musk has made like an army of them, like, I will learn how to program a robot. I don't know how to do it now, but I am curious and I will learn. But if you don't have that innate love of learning or curiosity, then I don't know, the robots are going to take you over.
Yes, absolutely. That's actually one of my team rules, is to be curious first. Always be curious. So if like everybody has these questions, like, why did you do X, Y, and Z? Like, in every relationship we have, we ask people that question, but it's like, okay, well, why did you make this decision first? Like, so be curious before anything else first.
Well, and it also brings up a good point, because listen, curiosity killed the cat, right? Like, sometimes I try to do things or learn things and like, it doesn't work. Like, what I try doesn't work. So for people that might have a team member or someone that's under them that tries something and it doesn't work, because I'm sure it's happened to you, how do you, maybe the word's not reprimand, but how do you and we're all virtual, so how do you clean up a mess virtually?
Oh, that is a good question. Have that conversation. We always, like, Squared Away, obviously, we're good, but nobody's perfect. We don't expect perfection 100% of the time. So it's having that conversation, saying, okay, well, what was your thought process here? Like, why did you come to the conclusion you should email this or whatever? And then chat through it and say, okay, well, this is a learning experience. So in the future, this is a process that we're going to create in case this pops up again. So we always use it as a learning tool, not a smack on the wrist, because again, we're trying to create leaders and not followers.
I love that. I wish more people would really take that to heart, that it's about, how do we learn? And listen, I mean, I've had disastrous mistakes in business, like 5-figure oops, that's really going to hurt the bank account, mistakes. So, but you just have to approach it with this mindset of, okay, I'm going to learn instead of screaming.
Yes. And trust me, I am not perfect at it by any stretch of the word. I've definitely had to take my 5 or 10 minute walks before I send an email or message back. But again, I kind of resolve that within myself, take a lot of deep breaths, and then draft something. I tell my team all the time, if you feel the need to draft something and it's not as nice as you think it should be, put it in Google Docs. You're not going to send that accidentally. And then it's your therapy virtually.
That is a good, I never thought about that, but Google Docs instead of drafts is good. And for anybody that doesn't know that uses Gmail, they do have, I think it's like 15-second or 30-second settings where you can unsend. So if you don't have that enabled, very much you should enable that today.
Definitely do it. I do it in Google Docs because technology doesn't like me and it might accidentally send someday. So,
listen, it happens. What are you going to do? Do the best you can. How do you, if someone has realized that they've made a mistake and they're like, oh my gosh, I've made a mistake and I have to present this to my boss or I have to present this to whoever I'm working with, what is kind of your 3-step guide or, wise words of like, how would one do that? Or how have you seen that be successful?
So I've definitely done some doozies as a VA in the past few years, but my best advice is always one, to own it, to let it be known that you made a mistake. It's totally on you if it was, and then say, this is what happened. This was my thought process and why I chose to do it this way. And this is how I'm going to do it moving forward. If you want to jump on a call, email, text, whatever, like it's always best to own it first. Deflecting and putting blame somewhere else when you know it's on you is just an integrity thing. Own it. Everybody makes mistakes, including me, like on the regular. So people are human.
People are human. No, listen, it happens, but that's good advice, just to own it and be like, I did that and hopefully I'm not going to do it again.
Yes, exactly. I promise you I will try my best not to do that again, but it's like my husband. He picks on me for cooking and I am the world's worst cook probably. And I love to modify recipes and they always come out horrible. And he's like, why can't you just follow the recipe? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll do that again in the future. So I'll try. But yeah, it's integrity number one. Everything else you can work with.
Well, tell him you're an entrepreneur and an innovator, and that includes recipes. So that doesn't just stop at business. That, goes on to the cornbread and bread pudding that you're making.
Yeah, my boys are like, yeah, no, Mom, we're not eating this. Sorry.
I've had a couple of those nights too. So I hear you. I always say I'm trying a new recipe and there's a 60% chance this is going to be delicious and a 40% chance that we're ordering pizza.
Yes.
And that's what's happening tonight. So get ready.
Exactly. Keto brownies were a massive fail in my house. My 4-year-old was like, Mommy, those are nasty. So everybody stick with your strengths.
Your strengths. Exactly. Okay. So I'm almost done with my tea. So I have like speed round questions.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready. Okay. What have you started using lately or doing lately that you love, that you're totally sold on?
The Calm app. If nobody has used that, I highly recommend taking advantage of it, just trying it for a month. I'm that person that was like, no way, I do not need to meditate. That is not my thing. Like, let me just listen to my true crime podcast while I go for a run or something. But meditating it's just so relaxing, and I'm kind of at 100 all the time, and it helps me so much. So it's probably my new favorite thing.
Oh, I love that. How long have you been using it for?
I've been using it for about a month, and it's no joke, probably one of my favorites. apps. There's also a kid one called Mushi, which I've tried it with my 4-year-old. He's not a huge fan, but I actually really like it. So the kid version is awesome too. But I highly recommend those apps.
Well, maybe it's a learn to love thing. Like Mushi will become something in January.
I hope so, but my 4-year-old was like, "Mommy, what are you doing? Like, what is this?" I don't know what you're trying to get me to listen to right now.
Can't win them all. Okay,
No.
what is the best gift that you've done for yourself? I know you kind of mentioned that self-care is not one of your strengths, but what is a gift? It can be a physical gift or, you know, something else that you've given yourself this past year that you feel like has made a big difference.
So, as silly as it sounds, I do a Birchbox every month. And it's kind of like my treat to myself. So I know I'm going to get like some goodies to try. And every single day for the first week, I'm trying one of those products for like 30 minutes or however long it takes to use. But it's like my treat myself spa day at home with a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So something super small that I can kind of fit in to my crazy schedule. So that is one of my biggest gifts to myself. And then being able to take a couple hours on the weekend to go for a walk by myself, like, and my husband has the boys or something where it's just me for a couple of hours.
Alone time makes a huge difference.
Like, it's my favorite thing. I love my kids. I love my husband. I love my team, but alone time is probably like my favorite luxury.
Alone time is big. Alone time is big. Okay, what is the next thing that you're really hoping to learn?
Oh my gosh. I'm always kind of trying to have better boundaries, as silly as that comes across. But like I said, Squared Away and I are interchangeable for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to say, okay, I don't need to respond to the 15 emails right now. I can go play with my kids. Like, this is my family time. Squared Away is amazing. I have an amazing team that helps me, and being able to say, you know what, guys, you've got this. My 1-year-old is on the dining room table, and I want to go teach him that climbing is not okay right now. And just having that time with them because they're only going to be little once. And so that's something that I've been struggling with, and am trying to be the best boundary maker in that regard.
It's a good one. I think we could all use a little bit of learning in that department.
Yes. Yes.
What is one thing that you wish you could have done sooner in your business or in your life that you're like, oh, if I could just get in a time machine, run the clock back and like do that, I would do it?
Oh my goodness. I would say probably delegating more to my directors and finding somebody to spearhead those major areas of Squared Away. Like my team or my directors at least joke all the time. They're like, Michelle, how in the world did you do this? And I was running every department myself. So finance, new clients, client issues, you name it. It was all me. Matching at one point, it was all me. And now I have directors in each of those areas. And I'm like, why did I not do this 2 years ago? I would be a completely different human being. But again, it was me wanting to do everything myself. So I got in my own way.
Micromanager at heart. Okay, now it's time for my favorite part, which is you are going to give us homework.
Okay.
Homework for the week, which is what is one thing, could be an app, could be a TV show, could be a recipe, could be a book, whatever. What is one thing that we should all try this week?
Oh my goodness. Trying to think of a good one. Oh, I've got a super random one for you, but it's probably one of my new favorite things. And my team who is watching will probably crack up at this. But if you have a world market near you, go to get Glühwein. It's a German mulled wine, and you drink it hot, and it's super amazing for the fall. It's not expensive at all, and it's so good.
I love that. Okay, mulled wine.
Mulled wine from World Market.
From World Market. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you get mulled wine, please tag Michelle and I so that we can see your mulled wine. Because
Yes.
now it's officially drinking is a homework assignment. And
Drinking is a homework assignment.
I don't know about you, Michelle, but I could get into drinking as a homework assignment with straight A's.
Yes.
A's across the board.
And and it's like drinking the holidays in a glass is what it's like. It's amazing.
Okay, well, I am into that. This is amazing homework. Where if people want to keep learning about you or learning from you or resources, where's the best place? Where do you spend all of your time?
Definitely our website and Instagram. We're always sharing our stories and tips and tricks for our clients and more about our assistants. So definitely check us out.
I love that, Michelle. And also, I think it's so fitting, and we did not plan this, but I think it's really great. You spoke a lot about authenticity. So I think it's really funny. So next week, we have Alex coming on, Alex Galvez, and she goes by Authentic Alex on LinkedIn. Yes. And her whole thing is how you present yourself authentically. So I swear we didn't pay Michelle, but that's like a nice little through thread.
Segue. Yes, that's awesome.
Such a good segue. Well, Michelle, thank you so much. I have so much Googling to do, and I can't wait for my mulled wine homework. That's going to be very
I want to see your pictures. I can't wait.
I will be posting them and tagging you in it.
Awesome.
I love it. Well, cheers. Thank you everybody for coming. Happy Wednesday. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. See ya.